One football club refuses to sign players who are not from the north of Spain. Another club comes from a town with around 50,000 people only but has won a major European trophy. One is known around the world for changing the way football is played. Hi, I am Vic, a Spanish football journalist covering the game in Spain for years now. If you want to get into La Liga or want to know about the teams playing in Spain, you have come to the right place. In the past, I have worked with Real Madrid, Atlético Madrid, Cadiz and other football entities in Spain. And today I present you the biggest guide to La Liga teams. Pick your team or just learn about the rich history of Spain and its football. Vamos! Athletic Club. Athletic Club or Athletic Bilbao were founded in 1898 during Bilbao's industrial boom. British workers employed in the city's shipyards and iron industry introduced football to the region, while Basque students returning from Britain helped spread the sport locally. Together, they laid the foundations of one of Spain's oldest clubs. One of the most important moments in their history came in 1911. After controversy over the use of foreign players, the club chose to build around local talent. Over time, this evolved into Athletic's famous recruitment philosophy, prioritizing players who were born in or developed football in the Basque country. That philosophy still defines the club today and is one of the most distinctive identities in world football. Since their inception and to this day, they have never signed a player that's not Basque or have not grown up in the Basque country or developed in a youth football system inside the Basque country. The fact that they have still attained so much success despite having such strict transfer philosophy is a huge sort of statement to their success. Athletic Club were also one of the 10 founding clubs of La Liga in 1929 and alongside Real Madrid and Barcelona have never been relegated from Spain's top flight. They have won 8 La Liga titles, 24 Copa del Rey titles, second only to Barcelona, and 3 Spanish Super Cups. The rivalries. Real Sociedad is their biggest rival. They play the Basque Derby or Euskal Derbia. Unlike many derbies fueled by hatred, this rivalry is rooted in regional pride and footballing identity. Both clubs represent the Basque country, have strong academy traditions and often field locally developed players. The atmosphere is intense, but it's widely regarded as one of Spain's most friendliest rivalries. San Mamés is known as the Cathedral because of its almost sacred place in Spanish football. The original stadium opened in 1913, while the modern San Mamés replaced it in 2013. Carrying forward the nickname and the club's traditions. One of the stadium's most famous customs is that visiting teams traditionally lay flowers at the bust of Pichichi before playing there for the first time, honoring one of Spain's earliest football legends. Yes, it's the same Pichichi whose name is on the award that's given to the highest scoring goal scorer in La Liga every season. That Pichichi was Athletic Bilbao's legend. Atletico Madrid. Atletico Madrid were founded in 1903 by Basque students living in Madrid as a branch of Athletic Club. Yeah, the same Athletic Club we just talked about, Atletico Madrid, actually was formed as their division in Madrid. In their early years, they wore blue and white shirts before adapting the now famous red and white stripes, inspired by the fabric used for traditional mattresses, which later gave rise to the nickname Los Colchoneros. For much of their history, Atletico lived in the shadow of city rivals Real Madrid. While Real became synonymous with European dominance, Atletico built an identity around working class people and determination and coming from small humble beginnings. Atleti enjoyed major domestic success in the 1940s, 50s, 60s and 70s, but then they had a phase where they did not really win a lot of trophies, where Real Madrid were winning a lot. It was the arrival of Diego Simeone in 2011 that transformed Atletico into one of Europe's elite again. Under Simeone, they broke the dominance of Real Madrid and Barcelona by winning La Liga twice and reached 2 UEFA Champions League finals, becoming one of the continent's most respected teams. They have won 11 La Liga titles, 10 Copa del Rey titles, 2 Spanish Super Cups, 3 Europa League titles, 3 Super Cups, and also have been UEFA Champions League runners-up on 3 occasions. Atletico has a fierce rivalry with Real Madrid in the El Derbi Madrileño. This is one of Europe's biggest city derbies, a derby so big that it has been played in the Champions League final twice in 2014 and 2016. This rivalry reflects contrasting identities. Real Madrid have historically represented sustained domestic and European success, while Atletico have embraced the role of the determined challenger. Every derby carries huge significance for supporters across the Spanish capital. Atletico's current home is the Riyadh Air Metropolitano, opened in 2017 after the club left the iconic Vicente Calderón. That stadium is regarded as one of Europe's finest modern football venues and regularly produces one of the loudest atmospheres in Spanish football. Atletico remained one of Spain's 3 biggest clubs and continue to compete for Champions League qualification and domestic trophies. FC Barcelona. Founded in 1899 by Swiss businessman Joan Gamper, Barcelona quickly became one of Spain's leading football clubs. Unlike many European giants, Barcelona grew into something far bigger than football. As Catalonia developed its own strong cultural identity, Barça became a symbol of regional pride. The club's famous motto, Més que un club, reflects its role as a sporting institution, cultural symbol, and a source of community. Barcelona enjoyed domestic success throughout the 20th century, but the club's greatest transformation began with Johan Cruyff. First as a player in the 1970s and later as a manager, Cruyff introduced a philosophy based on possession, positional play, technical excellence, and trust in young players. His legendary Dream Team won Barcelona's first European Cup in 1992 and laid the foundations for the modern club. Cruyff's idea shaped La Masia, Barcelona's academy, which produced an extraordinary generation including Xavi Hernandez, Andres Iniesta, Sergio Busquets, Gerard Piqué, Carlos Puyol, and Lionel Messi. Under Pep Guardiola, those principles reached their peak. Between 2008 and 2012, Barcelona played a style of football widely regarded as one of the greatest ever seen, winning multiple LaLiga titles and 2 UEFA Champions League trophies while redefining modern tactics. The Messi era brought unprecedented success, including a historic sextuple in 2009, which means winning 6 trophies in a season, before financial difficulties and institutional instability led to one of the most challenging periods in the club's history. The club responded by rebuilding around a new generation. By the 26-27 season, players such as Lamine Yamal, Pedri, Gavi, Pau Cubarsí, Alejandro Balde, and others represent the latest chapter in Barcelona's tradition of developing world-class talent. These world-class talented players not just play in Barcelona but are also instrumental in leading the Spanish national team, as 8 Barcelona players and 9 La Masia players became champions of the world in the victorious campaign by Spain in the 2026 FIFA World Cup. Why are Barcelona so important? Their importance goes far beyond trophies. This club revolutionized youth development through La Masia. They popularized positional football on a global scale. Many of today's elite coaches, including those who never played for Barcelona, have been influenced by the ideas developed under Johan Cruyff and Pep Guardiola. And very few clubs have changed football culture and tactics to the same extent. Their achievements are 29 La Liga titles, 32 Copa del Rey titles, 5 Champions League titles, 3 FIFA Club World Cups, 5 UEFA Super Cups, and Barcelona are one of the only clubs to have won the continental treble more than once, achieving the feat in 2008, 2009 and 2014-2015. The biggest club rivalry in world football involves FC Barcelona, and it is the El Clásico with Real Madrid. It brings together 2 of sport's biggest institutions, contrasting football philosophies, and more than a century of unforgettable moments. If you want to know more about El Clásico, I have a great video about it. I will put it in the description or in the card somewhere here, so make sure you watch that video. Also, they play the Derby Barcelona with Espanyol, which are Barcelona's city rivals. While Barcelona have historically dominated on the pitch, the rivalry reflects different identities of the city's 2 professional clubs. Spotify Camp Nou is the largest football stadium in Europe and one of the most iconic venues in world sport, which is the home of FC Barcelona. Since opening in 1957, it has hosted countless historic matches, European Cup finals, and unforgettable performances from some of football's greatest players. Following a major redevelopment, the stadium returned in the last season with increased capacity and modern facilities while retaining its status as one of football's greatest cathedrals. Celta de Vigo. Celta were founded in 1923 through the merger of Real Vigo Sporting and Real Club Fortuna de Vigo. The goal was simple: unite Vigo's football talent into one club capable of competing with Spain's best. The club takes its name from the Celts, reflecting Galicia's ancient Celtic heritage, something that remains part of the region's cultural identity today. Although Celta have never won La Liga, probably one of the big teams that have not won it, they have long been respected as one of Spain's most entertaining clubs. Throughout the 1990s and early 2000s, they became famous across Europe for attractive attacking football, earning the nickname Euro-Celta after memorable UEFA Cup campaigns against some of Europe's biggest clubs. Their greatest modern achievement came in 2017 when they reached the UEFA Europa League semi-finals, narrowly losing to Manchester United. Celta represent Galicia. Unlike Madrid, Barcelona or Seville, Galicia has only one consistent representative in Spain's top flight, making Celta an important cultural system for the region. That might change this season though, because I know a big club that is coming back to La Liga who will represent Galicia once again. The club has also built a reputation for trusting youth. Its academy Amadroa has produced generations of talented footballers who understand the club's identity and Spanish football from a very young age. As for their achievements, they've never won La Liga. They've been Copa del Rey runners-up on 3 occasions, and of course they've been UEFA Europa League semi-finalists as well. But yeah, they're one of Spain's most established first division clubs despite lacking major silverware. Their biggest rivalry is with Deportivo A Coruña in the Galician derby, and this is the team that I just mentioned. This is one of Spain's oldest regional rivalries. Although Vigo and A Coruña are only about 150 kilometers apart, the rivalry extends far beyond football, touching on regional pride, economics, and local identity. When both clubs meet, Galicia comes to a standstill. For many supporters, no fixture matters more. Abanca Balaidos has been Celta's home stadium since 1928. Although smaller than many La Liga stadiums, it is known for creating an intense atmosphere, especially during Galician derbies and European nights. Deportivo Alavés. Founded in 1921 in Vitoria-Gasteiz, Alavés spent much of their history moving between Spain's top divisions. Unlike fellow Basque clubs Athletic Club and Real Sociedad, Alavés were rarely considered one of Spain's major powers. Everything changed at the turn of the century. After earning promotion to La Liga in 1998, Alavés quickly became one of Spain's biggest surprise stories. Under José Manuel Esnal, they qualified for Europe and produced one of the greatest underdog runs in UEFA history. The club reached the 2001 UEFA Cup final, defeating clubs like Inter Milan on the way before losing an unforgettable 5-4 match against Liverpool after extra time. Despite the defeat, the performance made Alavés famous across Europe. Since then, the club has largely alternated between La Liga and the Segunda División, while establishing itself as a resilient, well-run provincial club. Representing Álava, the smallest of the 3 Basque provinces, Alavés often live in the shadow of Athletic Club and Real Sociedad. Rather than competing financially, they have built an identity around smart recruitment in a way. Their biggest achievement is as I said, the UEFA Cup runners-up in 2001 against Liverpool. They've also been Copa del Rey runners-up in 2017. They have won multiple Segunda Division titles to gain promotion to La Liga. And of course, their highest La Liga finish was 6th back in 99 and 2000 season. They have a rivalry with both the Basque clubs, although not that fierce. Athletic Club is their main rival because it comes from regional proximity, because it's still a Basque derby, so Basque derbies tend to be very, very friendlier in compared to other derbies across the country. The clubs generally enjoy respectful relations, and matches carry significance because both represent the Basque country. And because Alavés are historically smaller, these fixtures are often viewed as opportunities to challenge the established Basque powers rather than long-standing hostile rivalries. Mendizorroza is where they play and is one of the oldest stadiums in Spanish football, having opened in 1924. Its relatively small size creates an intimate atmosphere where supporters are close to the pitch, making it an uncomfortable venue for visiting teams. Deportivo de A Coruña. Welcome back Depor to La Liga. Founded in 1906, Deportivo spent much of the 20th century moving between divisions. Everything changed in the late 1980s and early 1990s. Under President Augusto César Lendoiro, the club transformed from a relegation struggler into one of Europe's most admired teams. This period became known as Super Depor. Led by stars such as Mauro Silva, Bebeto, Fran, Donato, Deportivo consistently challenged Real Madrid and Barcelona despite operating on a much smaller budget. On the final day of the season in 1994, Deportivo needed to beat Valencia to win their first ever La Liga title, but in the final minute they were awarded a penalty which Miroslav Čukić missed. But 1 year later, Deportivo responded by winning the 1995 Copa del Rey, lifting the first major trophy in club history. But their greatest achievement came in the 1999-2000 season when they won La Liga, becoming only the 9th club ever and the last new club to ever do so. Deportivo's accomplishments are 1 La Liga title, 2 Copa del Rey titles, 3 Spanish Super Cups and Champions League semi-finalists in 2004. Their rivalry is with Celta de Vigo in the Galician derby, which is one of Spain's oldest regional rivalries. This rivalry is all about Galician pride. Riazor is where they play and is one of Spain's most iconic stadiums. Situated right beside the Atlantic Ocean, it has hosted some of the greatest nights in Spanish football. The atmosphere reached legendary status during the Super Depor years. Even after years outside the top flight, Deportivo continued attracting crowds that many first division clubs would envy. Elche. Founded in 1923, Elche quickly became the footballing representative of one of Spain's fastest growing cities. Although they have never been among Spain's traditional giants, Elche have spent more than 24 seasons in La Liga and have built a reputation as one of the country's classic yo-yo clubs, repeatedly earning promotion back to the top flight after setbacks. The club's greatest sporting achievement came in 1963-64 when they finished 5th in La Liga, still their highest ever league finish. In 1969, Elche reached their only Copa del Rey final, losing to Athletic Club. One of the most defining chapters in the club's modern history came off the pitch. In 2015, despite avoiding relegation on sporting merit, Elche were administratively relegated because of financial issues. The decision devastated supporters, but the club gradually rebuilt, earning promotions back to the top flight through performances on the field rather than shortcuts. Elche are one of the few Spanish clubs that have experienced as many highs and lows without losing their identity. The club is also an important representative of the Valencian community, giving the region 4 La Liga clubs in 26-27. Their highest La Liga finish was 5th in the 1963-64 season. They've been Copa del Rey runners-up in 1969. They've played more than 25 seasons in La Liga and have multiple Segunda División championships and promotions. Elche's biggest rivalry is with Hercules Club de Football. Known as the Provincial Derby, it pits 2 of Valencian community's most historic clubs against each other. Although Hercules have spent recent years outside of La Liga, the fixture remains one of the most important in Elche's history. Elche play at the Martínez Valero, which is one of Spain's largest stadiums outside the traditional giants. In fact, this stadium hosted matches at the 1982 FIFA World Cup, including Hungary's famous 10-1 victory over El Salvador, still the largest win in World Cup history. RCD Espanyol. Founded in 1900, Espanyol are one of Spain's oldest football clubs and were originally created by Spanish university students, making them one of the first major clubs in the country founded by local Spaniards rather than foreign residents. In 1912, King Alfonso XIII granted the club the title Real, giving them royal patronage and the crown in their crest. For much of their history, Espanyol have lived alongside one of football's greatest superpowers, FC Barcelona. While Barça became a global brand, Espanyol developed a different identity, one rooted in resilience and local pride. Although league titles have remained elusive, Espanyol have consistently established themselves as one of Spain's most respected clubs. They have won the Copa del Rey 4 times and twice reached the UEFA Cup final, missing out on European glory in both 1988 and 2007 after losing on penalties. They have spent well over 80 seasons in La Liga, making them one of the division's most enduring clubs. They are also one of Spain's most productive developers of talent. Across generations, the club has produced or developed players who later became stars for Spain and some of Europe's biggest clubs. As I said, they have won 4 Copa del Rey titles and have been runners-up in the UEFA Cup on 2 occasions. Their biggest rivalry is with FC Barcelona in the Derby Barcelona, one of Spain's oldest rivalries. Although Barcelona have generally enjoyed greater sporting success, matches between the city's 2 clubs remain emotionally charged. For Espanyol supporters, the derby is about proving they belong in the same city without living in Barca's shadow. It's often a very violent derby and a derby which goes sometimes beyond the pitch in terms of vandalizing and graffitiing and a lot of other stuff. They play at the RCD Stadium, opened in 2009 and is widely regarded as one of Spain's finest modern football venues. The club's nickname Pericos originated from the large number of parakeets once found around their former stadium. Do you remember Andres Iniesta scoring the World Cup winning goal in 2010 and lifting up his shirt to say Dani Jarque siempre con nosotros? Dani Jarque was one of Espanyol's players, and that tribute really put Espanyol to the public eye for those who did not know them before. Getafe, the harambol team of La Liga. And I don't mean it as an insult. Unlike most clubs in La Liga, Getafe do not have a century of history. The current club was founded in 1983 following the collapse of club Getafe Deportivo. Starting in Spain's regional divisions, Getafe climbed rapidly through the football pyramid. By 2004, just 21 years after being founded, they reached La Liga for the first time. What followed was one of the most remarkable rises in modern Spanish football. Under managers such as Bernd Schuster, Michael Laudrup, José Bordalas, Getafe became known as one of Spain's toughest teams to play against. The club reached the Copa del Rey final twice in 2007 and 2008 and came within minutes of reaching the UEFA Cup final in 2008 after an unforgettable European tie against Bayern Munich. More recently, Getafe have been a sort of European contender. During the 2018-19 season, they finished 5th in La Liga, missing out on 4th place by just 2 points before reaching the Europa League round of 16 the following year, where they narrowly lost to Inter Milan. Despite being one of the newest clubs in Spain's top flight, Getafe have spent much of the last 2 decades competing with teams far richer and more established. Their achievements are 2 times Copa del Rey runners-up, UEFA Cup quarter-finalist, UEFA Europa League round of 16, and their highest La Liga finish was 5th in 2018-19. Their biggest rivalry is with Leganés, which is the South Madrid derby. The two clubs are separated by only a few kilometers and represent neighboring municipalities in southern Madrid. Although relatively modern, the derby has become increasingly important as both clubs have established themselves in professional football. The Coliseum is where they play and is one of La Liga's smallest but more beautiful stadiums. Its compact design creates an intimate atmosphere where supporters sit close to the pitch. Although Getafe's fan base is smaller than many historic clubs, it has grown significantly since the club's rise to La Liga. Levante. Levante's roots stretch back to 1909, making them one of Spain's oldest football clubs and, remarkably, older than Valencia Club de Football. Following the Spanish Civil War, financial difficulties led to a merger between Levante FC and Gimnástico FC in 1939, creating the modern Levante Unión Deportiva. For decades, Levante lived between the top 2 divisions, often earning promotion only to face the difficult task of surviving in La Liga. Their modern golden era began in the early 2000s. After several promotions, Levante established themselves in the top flight and became known as one of Spain's toughest underdogs. The greatest season in club history came in 2011-12, where they finished 6th in La Liga, qualifying for European football for the first time. The following season, they reached the UEFA Europa League round of 16, defeating Olympiacos before narrowly losing. Throughout the 2010s, Levante earned a reputation for shocking Spain's biggest clubs, defeating both Real Madrid and Barcelona on multiple occasions despite operating on a fraction of their budgets. Sharing a city with Valencia CF has never been easy, yet Levante have built their own identity through determination, good community support, and memorable performances against the biggest teams. They've played more than 15 seasons in La Liga. Their highest La Liga finish was 6th in 2011-12. They've won multiple Segunda Division titles, but a major trophy is yet to come their way. Their biggest rivalry is with Valencia CF in the Derby del Turia, or the Valencian Derby. This is the city's biggest football rivalry. Although Valencia have historically enjoyed greater success, Levante supporters cherish every derby as an opportunity to prove themselves against their more decorated neighbors. Unlike some of Spain's fiercest rivalries, the Valencia derby is generally known for its passionate but respectful atmosphere. The Ciutat de Valencia has been Levante's home since 1969. Málaga. Football has deep roots in Málaga, but the modern Málaga CF emerged in 1994 after the disappearance of CD Málaga. The club climbed steadily through the Spanish football pyramid before returning to La Liga in 1999. For a decade, Málaga established themselves as a respected top-flight club, winning the 2002 UEFA Intertoto Cup, their first European trophy, and regularly producing entertaining football. Everything changed in 2010 when Sheikh Abdullah Al Thani purchased the club. Heavy investment brought players such as Santi Cazorla, Joaquin, Ruud van Nistelrooy, Martin Demichelis, Willy Caballero, and a young Isco. Under Manuel Pellegrini, Málaga enjoyed the greatest period in their history. In 2012-13, they qualified for the UEFA Champions League for the first time, won their group, eliminated Porto in the round of 16 and reached the quarterfinals. Against Borussia Dortmund, Malaga led deep into stoppage time before conceding 2 dramatic late goals and losing 3-2 on aggregate. Many Malaga supporters still regard it as the most heartbreaking night in club history. Financial problems followed. UEFA sanctions, ownership issues and sporting decline eventually led to relegation in 2018. But after 8 years of wait, Malaga returned to La Liga by winning the 2026 promotion playoffs, completing one of the most celebrated promotions in recent Spanish football. Within a few years, they went from the Segunda División to the Champions League quarterfinals. Then almost as quickly, financial collapse pushed them back into the lower divisions. Their highest La Liga finish was 4th back in 2011-12, and they won the UEFA Intertoto Cup once in 2002. Their biggest rivalry is with Sevilla FC, which is their most significant rivalry in recent decades. As 2 of Andalusia's biggest clubs, the meetings carry huge regional importance. Even with Granada is a competitive Andalusian rivalry that has intensified whenever both clubs have shared the top flight. Their stadium is one of Spain's most iconic football stadiums, La Rosaleda, which opened in 1941. It hosted matches during the 1982 FIFA World Cup and is scheduled to be a host venue for the 2030 FIFA World Cup after redevelopment. Malaga supporters are widely regarded as among the most passionate in Spain. Even after relegation, attendances remained impressive, and the atmosphere during the 2026 promotional campaign reminded the country why La Rosaleda is one of Spain's great football venues. Osasuna. Osasuna were founded in 1920 after 2 local clubs, Sportiva Football Club and New Club, merged to create a stronger representative for Pamplona. The name Osasuna comes from the Basque language and means health, reflecting the founders' desire to build a strong sporting institution. Unlike Spain's traditional giants, Osasuna have never relied on enormous financial power. Their history has been defined by perseverance, relegations, promotions, and just connection with the people of Navarre. Their greatest modern achievement came in the 2005-06 season when they finished 4th in La Liga and reached the UEFA Champions League qualifiers. A year later, they reached the UEFA Cup semi-finals, one of the greatest moments in the club's history. Osasuna are one of Spain's strongest examples of a genuine community club. Representing the historic kingdom of Navarre, they are filled with regional pride while maintaining close cultural ties with neighboring Basque regions. Unlike clubs backed by billionaire owners or global commercial power, Osasuna have built their reputation through stability, youth development, and fierce home support. Their biggest achievements are 4-time Segunda División champions, Copa del Rey runners-up in 2005 and 2023, UEFA Cup semi-finalists, and 4th being their highest La Liga finish. They have a few rivalries. One of them is with Athletic Club. Even though it's not a traditional derby in the same city, it matches with Athletic Club because the matches with Athletic Club carry regional significance because of the historical and cultural connections between Navarre and Basque country. Real Zaragoza. Well, this rivalry developed through decades of competitive matches between neighboring regions and has become one of Osasuna's fiercest football rivalries. El Sadar is where Osasuna play and is regularly regarded as one of the most intimidating stadiums in Spain. Despite being much smaller than the homes of Spain's biggest clubs, its steep stands and passionate supporters create an intense atmosphere where visiting teams often struggle. Osasuna supporters are known for standing behind the team through both relegation battles and European adventures, reinforcing the club's image as one of Spain's most loyal fan bases. Racing Santander. One of Spain's true historic clubs is finally back. Racing are a founding member of La Liga, former title challengers and the pride of Cantabria. After 14 years away from the top flight, they return to where many people believe they belong. Founded in 1913, Racing Santander quickly established themselves as one of northern Spain's strongest clubs. When La Liga was created in 1929, Racing were one of its 10 founding members, immediately giving them a permanent place in Spanish football history. Their greatest achievement came in 1930-31 when Racing finished runners-up in La Liga, the highest league finish in the club's history. Only Athletic Club finished above them that season. Nearly a century later, it remains one of the best campaigns ever produced by a club outside Spain's traditional giants. For decades, Racing were a familiar presence in the top flight, producing outstanding footballers and regularly competing against Spain's biggest clubs. But the club's darkest period arrived in the 2010s. Financial mismanagement pushed Racing to the brink of collapse. In 2014, the players famously refused to play a Copa del Rey match beyond the opening seconds in protest over unpaid wages and poor ownership, creating one of the most powerful moments in modern Spanish football. The protest helped trigger major changes at the club and became a symbol of unity between players and supporters. Rather than disappearing, Racing rebuilt from the ground up. After years in the lower divisions, they completed their return to La Liga in 2026, ending a 14-year absence and bringing one of Spain's oldest football institutions back to the top flight. Racing are the footballing heart of Cantabria. Unlike many regions in Spain, Cantabria has only one major professional club, making Racing a powerful symbol of regional identity. Their biggest achievements are they were La Liga runners-up in 1930-31, they have 2 Segunda Division titles, and have more than 40 seasons in Spain's top flight. Historically, Racing's biggest rivalry has been with Athletic Club. The club's geographic proximity across Spain's northern coast led to the fixture being known as the Duel of the North. While it lost prominence during Racing's years outside La Liga, the rivalry returns with their promotion. Although generally more friendly than hostile, matches involving Sporting Gijón also have carried regional significance. Their stadium is Campos de Sport de El Sardinero and has been Racing's home since 1988. The stadium has become famous for its passionate atmosphere, particularly during the club's fight back from the lower divisions. Rayo Vallecano. Rayo Vallecano are one of the most unique clubs in Spain. While many teams are defined by trophies or superstar players, Rayo are defined by something far rarer, their neighborhood. Vallecas isn't just where they play because it's a part of their whole identity. Founded in 1924, Rayo Vallecano spent much of their early history in Spain's lower divisions. Unlike Real Madrid or Atlético Madrid, Rayo never represented wealth or power. They represented Vallecas, a traditionally working-class neighborhood in southeast Madrid. Throughout their history, promotions and relegations have come and gone, but one thing has remained constant, which is the club valuing its philosophies of left-wing politics and their close connection with their community. Rayo first reached La Liga in 1977 and gradually established themselves as one of Spain's most respected underdogs. The club enjoyed memorable European adventures in the early 2000s, reaching the UEFA Cup quarterfinals in 2001. But the greatest modern chapter has come in recent years. During their centenary season, Rayo equaled the best league finish in club history, qualified for European football through their league position for the first time, and followed it with a remarkable run to the 2026 UEFA Conference League final, which was the first major final in the club history. In Europe. Although they lost to Crystal Palace, the journey captured the imagination of football fans across Europe. Rayo have often operated with one of the smallest budgets in La Liga, a dysfunctional stadium, poor ownership, yet they continue to compete against clubs with vastly greater resources. For many neutral fans, Rayo have become one of Spain's most lovable clubs because they never try to be something that they aren't. Their biggest achievements are multiple promotions to La Liga, UEFA Cup quarterfinalist, Conference League finalist, and their highest La Liga finish, which was 8th, which they matched a few seasons ago. Their rivalries are with the other Madrid clubs like Getafe, which is a modern rivalry between the two clubs representing working-class communities on the outskirts of Madrid, and also with Leganes, which is another Madrid area rivalry that has grown in importance over the last 2 decades. Their stadium is Estadio de Vallecas and is one of Spain's smallest and also the most dysfunctional stadiums. But still, the fans, they sit extremely close to the pitch, creating one of La Liga's most intense atmospheres. The supporters are famous throughout Europe because Rayo fans have repeatedly been praised for their activism and support through promotions, relegations, and financial uncertainty. Real Betis. Founded in 1907, Real Betis quickly became one of Andalusia's most important football clubs. In 1935, Betis achieved one of the greatest surprises in Spanish football history by winning La Liga, becoming the first club from Andalusia to be crowned champions of Spain. That's the only title that they've won in history in terms of La Liga, and the decades that followed brought relegations, financial struggles, and long periods outside the spotlight. Instead of abandoning the club, the supporters became even more devoted. Their famous motto, Viva el Betis, manque pierda, means long live Betis, even if they lose, became a way of life. The modern renaissance began under Manuel Pellegrini. Since his arrival in 2020, Betis have become one of Spain's most consistent teams, winning the 2022 Copa del Rey, reaching the 2025 UEFA Conference League final, and qualifying for the 26-27 UEFA Champions League, their first appearance in Europe's premier competition in over 2 decades. Their biggest achievements are La Liga champions in 1935, 3 Copa del Rey titles, and UEFA Conference League finalists in 2025. They share one of Spain's fiercest rivalries with Sevilla FC, the Seville Derby, El Gran Derby as it also known as. The Seville Derby divides families, neighborhoods, and generations. Unlike rivalries based purely on sporting success, this one is deeply connected to the city's identity. Many Spanish football fans consider El Gran Derby the country's most intense local rivalry because the entire city comes to a standstill whenever the two clubs meet. The Benito Villamarín is where Real Betis play and is one of Spain's most iconic stadiums, but for the 26-27 season, they are temporarily playing at La Cartuja while the Villamarín undergoes redevelopment. Real Madrid Club de Football. No football club in history has built its identity around victory quite like Real Madrid. Founded in 1902, Real Madrid quickly established themselves as one of Spain's leading clubs. The club received the title Real, which means royal, from King Alfonso XIII in 1920, adding the crown that remains on the club's crest today. While Madrid were already successful domestically, everything changed in the 1950s. Led by club president Santiago Bernabeu and inspired by legends such as Alfredo De Stefano, Ferenc Puskás, Paco Gento, Ramon Copa, and José Santamaría, Real Madrid dominated the newly created European Cup. They won the first 5 European Cups, establishing themselves as the benchmark of world football. Since then, every generation has added to that legacy. From La Quinta del Buitre to the Galacticos to the era of Cristiano Ronaldo, Luka Modric to Toni Kroos, Karim Benzema and Vinicius Jr., Real Madrid have continually reinvented themselves while maintaining the same standard. No club has won more European Cups or Champions League titles or La Liga titles than Real Madrid. The club's pursuit of success continues into the 26-27 season under returning manager Jose Mourinho. Real Madrid have shaped football more than almost any other club. They are also rightfully voted the club of the century and have become one of the world's most recognizable sporting institutions. They have won 36 La Liga titles, 15 Champions League titles, 20 Copa del Rey titles, and multiple Club World Cup, Super Cups, Spanish Super Cups, and Intercontinental Cups. Rather than listing every trophy, the most important fact is this: Real Madrid are the most decorated club in European football history. As previously mentioned, their biggest rivalry is with FC Barcelona in El Clásico. If you want more information about that, go click the video in my description. I promise you will love it. Also, they play the El Derbi Madrileño with Atlético Madrid, which is a city derby. Although Real Madrid have been historically the more successful club in the city, Atlético have produced many memorable derby victories, making this one of Europe's premier rivalries. The Santiago Bernabeu is one of football's most iconic stadiums and is home to Real Madrid. Comprehensively redeveloped in the 2020s, it now features a retractable roof, a retractable pitch, and cutting-edge technology, making it one of the most advanced sporting venues in the world. The stadium has hosted European Cup finals, FIFA World Cup matches, UEFA Euro matches, NFL match, and countless historic football nights. Real Sociedad. Founded in 1909, Real Sociedad quickly became one of the Basque country's leading football clubs. Like neighbors Athletic Club, Real Sociedad traditionally relied almost exclusively on Basque players for much of the 20th century. That philosophy helped shape the club's identity and created a deep connection with the local community. The greatest period in the club's history came in the early 1980s. Real Sociedad won back-to-back La Liga titles in 1980-81 season and the 1981-82 season, breaking the dominance of Spain's traditional powers. They followed those triumphs with the 1982 Copa del Rey, creating the greatest era in club history. In 1989, the club made a landmark decision by signing John Aldridge, breaking the Basque-only recruitment policy that Athletic Club still follows. But rather than losing their identity, Real Sociedad evolved. The academy at Zubieta became one of Europe's finest, producing generations of players while allowing carefully selected talent from outside the region to complement them. Today, Real Sociedad remain one of Spain's model clubs, consistently competing for European football while staying true to their footballing philosophy. I mean, look at them, they just won the Copa del Rey this season. Their biggest achievements, as I said, are Copa del Rey titles, one of which they just won, 2 La Liga titles in 1980-81 and 1981-82, and 1 Supercopa de España. As previously mentioned, their biggest rivalry is with Athletic Club in the Basque Derby, which is one of Spain's oldest and most respected rivalry. The Basque Derby is characterized by mutual respect and competition and is usually not very fierce. The Reale Arena, traditionally known as Anoeta, has been Real Sociedad's home since 1993. Following extensive renovations, it has become one of Spain's finest football stadiums, with supporters now sitting much closer to the pitch and creating an even more intimidating atmosphere. Sevilla FC. If Real Madrid are the kings of the Champions League, then Sevilla are the kings of the Europa League. No club in football history has owned the competition the way Sevilla have owned Europe's second-tier tournament. But reducing Sevilla to just the Europa League would miss the bigger picture. Let's go back and talk about it. Founded in 1890, Sevilla are one of the oldest and most historic clubs in Spanish football. For decades, they were a respected first division side with passionate support but relatively modest trophy success compared with Spain's biggest clubs. Everything changed in the early 2000s. Under sporting director Monchi, Sevilla revolutionized recruitment. Rather than competing financially with Europe's richest clubs, they became masters at identifying undervalued talent, developing players, and selling them at the right time. This model transformed Sevilla into one of Europe's smartest run clubs. Beginning with their first UEFA Cup triumph in 2006, Sevilla developed an almost mythical relationship with that competition. They won again in 2007, then added further titles in 2015, 2016, 2020, and 2023, taking their tally to a record 7 Europa League/UEFA Cup titles. No club has dominated this tournament to that extent. Domestically, Sevilla have also enjoyed success, regularly qualifying for the Champions League and establishing themselves as one of Spain's best of the rest behind Real Madrid, Barcelona, and Atlético Madrid. Their biggest achievements, as I said, is the 7 UEFA Europa League titles, which is a record, 1 La Liga title, which they won in 1945-46 season, 5 Copa del Rey titles, and 1 UEFA Super Cup. Their rivalries are with Real Betis in El Gran Derby, which is one of the fiercest derbies in world football. As previously mentioned, this rivalry divides the city of Seville unlike almost any other football rivalry in Spain. Families, friendships, neighborhoods are split between red and white or green and white. It's one of the most intense atmosphere anywhere in Europe. The Ramon Sanchez Pizjuan has been Sevilla's home since 1958. It has hosted European Cup finals, FIFA World Cup matches, UEFA Euro matches, and on European nights, it actually becomes one of Spain's loudest stadiums. Valencia Club de Football. They are one of Spain's biggest clubs, 6-time league champions, 2-time Champions League finalists, yet their modern story is so sad. Founded in 1919, Valencia quickly established themselves as one of Spain's leading clubs. The club enjoyed early success in the 1940s, winning multiple league titles and becoming one of Spain's elite. Their greatest era, however, came around the turn of the millennium. Under Hector Cooper, Valencia reached back-to-back UEFA Champions League finals in 2000 and 2001. Although they lost both, those campaigns announced Valencia as one of Europe's elite. Then came Rafael Benitez. In 2001-2002, Valencia won their first La Liga title in 31 years. 2 years later, they completed one of the greatest seasons in club history by winning La Liga and the UEFA Cup in 2003-2004, cementing their place among Europe's best clubs. Players like David Albelda, Ruben Baraja, Pablo Aimar, David Villa, David Silva, Santiago Canizares became icons of one of Spain's greatest teams. But financial problems, constant managerial changes, ownership disputes, and instability under manager Peter Lim gradually pushed Valencia away from Spain's elite. The fact that they are somehow still in the first division is a miracle, because in the last few years we've all seen how close they have come to get relegated, and it was a scary thought at some times. Valencia are one of the biggest clubs in Spanish football history. Only Real Madrid, Barcelona, and Atlético Madrid have consistently won more major honors in their peak. For many neutrals, Valencia's revival would be one of the best stories in European football. Their biggest achievements are 6 La Liga titles, 8 Copa del Rey titles, 1 Europa League, 2 UEFA Champions League finals, 2 UEFA Super Cups, and 2 Intercities Fair Cups. They have a rivalry with Levante, as I said, the Derby Valenciano, Derby del Turia. Although Valencia have historically been the bigger club, matches against Levante carry huge significance for supporters across the city. Also with Villarreal Club de Football is a regional rivalry that has grown considerably over the past 2 decades as Villarreal established themselves among Spain's strongest clubs. Mestalla is where they play and is one of Europe's most iconic football stadiums, which opened in 1923 and is now famous for its steep stands and intense atmosphere and fans sitting almost on top of the pitch to the point that you can see the entire city around you. The stadium has witnessed league titles, European nights, and some of Spain's greatest players, but unfortunately this will be the last season that they play in this stadium because they are moving to a new stadium which is a few kilometers away from the old stadium called Nou Mestalla. So if you are in Valencia, make sure you go and watch a game in that stadium before you never can again. Villarreal. Villarreal are living proof that size does not determine success. Yes, in every situation in life. Founded in 1923, Villarreal spent much of the 20th century in Spain's lower divisions. But everything changed after a purchase from Fernando Roy in 1997. Rather than chasing quick success through reckless spending, Roy invested in infrastructure, youth development, and long-term planning. The club reached La Liga for the first time in 1998 and quickly established itself as one of Spain's most competitive teams. Under Manuel Pellegrini, Villarreal became a Champions League regular, finishing runners-up in La Liga in 2007-2008 and reaching the UEFA Champions League semi-finals in 2005-2006, where they came within a missed penalty of eliminating Arsenal and reaching the final. A new golden era arrived under Unai Emery. In 2021, Villarreal defeated Manchester United to win the UEFA Europa League, the first major trophy in the club history. The following season, they stunned Juventus and Bayern Munich on their way to another Champions League semi-final, just falling short of making the final due to a great performance by Liverpool. Today, Villarreal are regarded as one of the best run clubs in European football. Their achievements, as I said, are UEFA Europa League winners in 2021, Champions League semi-finalists on multiple occasions, and La Liga runners-up in 2008. Their rivalries are with Valencia, the two biggest clubs in the Valencian community. They carry a sort of importance in the battle for regional supremacy, and also a traditional local rivalry with Castellón. Their stadium is the Estadio de la Cerámica, formerly Madrigal, which has been Villarreal's home since 1923. Despite its modest size, it has hosted some of Europe's biggest clubs and unforgettable European nights. The iconic yellow color is so significant for a club that is known as the Yellow Submarine, and their stadium definitely reflects that aesthetic. So yeah, that's it. If you enjoyed this video, then make sure you drop a like, subscribe to La Liga Vic, because this is the home of Spanish football in English on YouTube. So don't miss out on any more videos. Make sure to subscribe, like, and comment your thoughts. What team are you supporting this season? Let me know, and I will see you in the next one. Hasta luego.